Hi friends, Caitlyn Becker here with a new weekend special edition of the New York POSTcast. The POSTcast, post-mortem. I'm a true crime junkie at heart, and we can't always fit those stories in during the week. So here is where you will find what you missed this week in true crime. Senseless. That's the only word to describe this tragedy I will tell you about this week in Brooklyn. A maniac beat some random man he didn't know to death in broad daylight for no reason whatsoever. The incident went down around 3 p.m. outside of a subway station. Sources tell the Post that 64-year-old Nicola Tanzi was basically being a nice guy and holding the subway gate open for other travelers. Well, 25-year-old David Mazariegos apparently didn't like that, and he allegedly decided to attack Tanzi for it. The victim was beat mercilessly in the face, and sources said the killer stomped on his head up to 15 times. And as if that wasn't enough, the assailant then robbed his nearly lifeless body. Now, Tanzi lived through the attack, but only for a short while. He succumbed to his injuries at the hospital. Now, cops picked up their suspect near Times Square, walking around with a samurai sword, and they charged him in the killing. His first court appearance was something to behold. Mazariegos, who's been arrested no less than 33 times, was a raving lunatic outside of the hearing with this maniacal grin for the cameras. Mind you, he's missing some teeth there. And he was shouting nonsense about taking his planet, whatever that means. Here is what is maybe the worst part. Sources told the Post that the killer slaughtered the innocent man because he didn't like the way he, quote, looked at him. Now, if you're big into true crime like I am, you are no doubt familiar with the Brian and Anna Walshe story. Anna Walshe disappeared on New Year's Day in 2023. She still hasn't been found, but authorities are pretty positive they know what happened to her. Prosecutors charged her husband, Brian, with murdering Anna and then dismembering her body. Brian was slated to stand trial this month for slaughtering his wife, but Monday, a Massachusetts judge granted his attorney's request to see if he's mentally competent to stand trial. Instead of the defense table, Walshe will sit at a state hospital for 20 days to undergo competency testing. Last month, Brian was stabbed in a jailhouse assault, and it's that attack that his lawyers say has traumatized him so much that he isn't fit to stand trial. Now, let's circle back to what he's actually being accused of here exactly. Back in 2023, Brian is the one who first reported Anna missing, but police thought his behavior wasn't quite right and that his story had holes in it, so they looked into him as their possible perp. Security footage from a Lowe's taken right around the time Anna vanished captured a man in a mask that is believed to be Brian buying, ready for this, 5-gallon buckets, a hacksaw, towels, hammer, coveralls, mop, rags, trash bags, and cleaning products. Not great, and that's not all. Before Anna disappeared, her husband was allegedly Googling about divorce. Brian did a lot of Googling, according to prosecutors. iPad searches discovered on the iPad belonging to Anna and Brian's son are concerning. Here are just a few of the things the DA says Brian searched. How long before a body starts to smell, how to stop a body from decomposing, and how long for someone to be missing to inherit. Now, Walshe is currently serving time for an unrelated art fraud conviction over some fake Warhols. And now we're just going to have to wait to see if he will face a jury for the death of his wife. A stay of execution in Texas. Robert Roberson, a convicted killer on death row in the Lone Star State, lives to fight another day. Roberson was scheduled to be put to death by lethal injection this October for killing his 2-year-old daughter Nikki back in the early 2000s. Now, this is the third time his death sentence has been postponed. On Thursday, the Texas Criminal Court of Appeals granted him a stay, citing a law that allows defendants a second shot, basically, if the science used to convict them is no longer credible today. Back at trial, prosecutors successfully argued that he violently hit and shook his baby, giving her a traumatic brain injury that killed her. You might be familiar with the term shaken baby syndrome. That's what we're talking about here. The scientific evidence that made that determination, according to his team, is flawed by today's standards. Robertson's capital punishment case would mark the first time in history someone is put to death over shaken baby syndrome. Now, he has maintained his innocence from the jump, and his defense team believes that his undiagnosed autism at the time of the trial kind of muddied the waters because their client didn't behave, quote unquote, normally in the wake of the tragedy. Now, looking ahead to next week, suspected killer Christopher Blevins will be back in court. The 45-year-old from Runnymede, New Jersey, is accused of murdering his girlfriend and stuffing her body in a refrigerator and then dumping it in the woods in South Jersey. Now, he was captured in San Diego over the slaying of 50-year-old Laura Hughes. He was allegedly on the run. Now, in addition to his first-degree murder charge, Blevins is also facing charges of desecrating human remains and hindering apprehension. Hughes's remains were found back in late December just before Christmas. She was stuffed in a fridge, which was wrapped in a sleeping bag, covered in a carpet, and then tied with ratchet straps and then dumped in a Cape May County forest. So that is one that we're going to be looking at next week. And of course, I will keep you updated if any of these other cases change, and I will be on the lookout for all the big true crime cases between now and next weekend. Thanks for joining me for the first edition of our special weekend true crime series, POSTcast Postmortem. Don't forget, like and follow the New York Postcast for more of this and for all the other news you need during the week here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.